Nearing the end of my grad school experience, I knew that I didn't want to become a professor, but I didn't exactly know what would come next. I had an idea about applying to non academic and alternative academic jobs, but I was lacking guidance. I was lacking structure. I was lacking the support that I had been receiving for the tenure track application process. I remember feeling frustrated at the lack of professional development opportunities in my department. It felt as if the only thing that we were getting prepared for were research based professor positions. I also felt isolated. I felt like I was left to figure it out on my own. And I also felt different in that when I talked to people around me, this was taboo to consider careers outside of academia. Folks would discourage me. And also, when I sought out coaches and consultants or other professionals who could help me with this job search process, I found that none of them looked like me or had similar backgrounds as me. And so at the end of the day, I didn't know what my options were. I lucked out in that I did have some skills, I did have some work experiences, and some contacts that helped me to land my first job out of grad school. But if I could do it all over again, I would follow some of the strategies that I'm going to share with you today on how to explore career options if you are a PhD professional. Welcome to the award-winning Grad School Femtoring Podcast, the place for first-gen BIPOCs to listen in on inclusive grad school stories and learn about personal development and productivity tips. This is Doctora Yvette Martinez-Vu, a certified coach, consultant, and author, and I will be serving as your Femtor, providing you with insider knowledge to help you reach your personal and professional goals. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Grad School Femtoring Podcast. This is your host, Doctora Yvette. I'm a grad school and productivity coach, consultant, author, and speaker. And this year, I have taken on several graduate student clients, more than ever before, actually. And one thing that I've noticed is that most of them have hired me to support them with navigating the process of completing their grad school exams, getting through the dissertation writing and defense process, and just they're seeking this structure, accountability, support, guidance to help them make progress on getting through to the finish line. But then once they get there, then the logical next thought that comes up for them is what comes next. Some, not all of them, have started to ask me about whether or not I can support them with career exploration and career development. They want to know, what are my options? What else can I do with the skills that I've learned? And do I just settle for this tenure track job that I may or may not get? Or are there other viable career options that could work for me? And so, of course, as a certified coach, I can provide support in helping them to gain clarity and to explore jobs. And so today I thought I would share with you some of the strategies that actually come up in my one-on-one session, some of the things that I walk through my clients to help them in identifying some more career options beyond what they even thought possible with their credentials, with their background, with their training, with their skills and strengths and interests. There are 6 strategies I'm sharing with you today. The first one, just to get straight into it, is around identifying your core values. I say this a lot, and I say it because I believe that it's very important. It is important to know your core values because they reflect your fundamental beliefs. Whether you realize it or not, there are core values that impact and influence why you do what you do. And a lot of times when we have obstacles or when we start to feel stuck or there's this tension or mismatch, underneath it all is this tension or mismatch with your core values. And so, how do you actually identify your core values? There are many different ways to do this. You can find free assessments online, you can find lists of core values online. In fact, I have both. I have a free core values workbook that you can access right now if you want to. I'll link it in the show notes. I also have a blog post with a comprehensive list of 100 core values. I offer these free resources because I do think it's important. I want everybody to know what their values are and to live a values aligned life. So that's why it's there for you for free. But in any case, if you don't want to check that out, that's fine too. You can simply do some reflecting. You can think about your past and some formative experiences and how core values could have shaped that. You can think about your present and important moments that have happened to you recently and how they might reflect some core values. You can even look to the future, the things that fulfill you, that make you feel a sense of drive and purpose, and think about what is that greater mission or calling that you have of what you want to do in terms of leaving an impact in the world and how that might be shaped by a core value. Or you can just take a look at a list of values and pinpoint some of the words that resonate most with you. That's the first strategy. You want to know what your core values are, because from that, you can start to weed out some jobs that don't align with your values so that you're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping that something sticks. You're actually being more intentional about the types of jobs you're even considering applying for. The second strategy is all about identifying your non-negotiables. This is incredibly important. You'd be surprised how many people, how many grad students in particular, have told me they want to start to apply for non-academic jobs. And then I ask them, what are your salary expectations? And they have no idea what that number is. Salary and compensation is one example of a non-negotiable. How much money do you have to make to survive? After taxes, of course. How much money would you like to make to be comfortable? And how much money would be ideal for you to make one day to reach all of your financial goals, all of your life goals, all the things you want to accomplish? How much would it cost for you to get there? You want to have these numbers, your bare bones number, your comfortable number, and your very ambitious number. And then from there, figure out, well, which one is your non-negotiable for now. Other examples of non-negotiables include your location. Are you willing to move for a job? Are you willing to travel for a job? Are you willing to commute for a job? Do you prefer a specific type of work environment? Do you prefer working from home virtually? Do you prefer working in a hybrid setting? Do you prefer an in-person type of job? And even when it's in person, do you prefer a more collaborative, open environment, or do you prefer a more isolated, independent type of job? Another non-negotiable has to do with work-life balance or work-life integration or even flexibility. How much flexibility do you have in setting your hours or choosing when you work or choosing when you take time off? Another non-negotiable that comes up a lot is around healthcare. I have a lot of clients who are neurodivergent. I have a lot of clients who also have chronic illnesses, and they have certain medical needs. And so for them, it's important to have certain types of health insurance. I also have a lot of clients who are parents. I have a lot of clients who are caregivers, and having access to healthcare for their families is also important. You might be someone who is also interested in a job that provides you with professional development opportunities. And so if that's the case, that's something you can look into to see, does this job provide you with any professional development funding? And guess what? Yes, I have had clients who have used their professional development funds to pay me for my services. So just keep that in mind, that that's something you can look for in a job. And then, of course, for some people, a non-negotiable is this alignment with their values or their mission. Of course, you don't absolutely have to have a job that 100% fit with your values, 100% fits with your mission. Maybe it's not a direct, perfect fit, but it provides you with the kind of compensation or the kind of flexibility that allows you to pursue those greater values or that greater mission on the side. You get to decide that. You get to decide what your non-negotiables are. So I want you to pinpoint them for yourself before you even start looking at lists of jobs or all these jobs on job boards. You need to know this information. Now, the third strategy has to do with taking assessments. I love me some data, especially some data about myself. I think it's important just as much as y'all, many of you that listen to this podcast are either graduate students, aspiring graduate students, or former graduate students, which means you probably have done some formal research in some way, shape, or form. And so, just as much as you've been trained to research other topics and other people, you can use that same skill set to research yourself. Find out a little bit more about your personality. Find out a little bit more about your strengths. Find out a little bit more about how you work with others. So, you can do this by taking one of several very popular assessments. The more well-known ones are called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the Clifton Strengths Test, the DISC Assessment, the VIA Character Strengths Survey, the High Five Strengths Assessment. There's also human design charts, and folks who are into astrology you can get that chart as well. There are even AI-powered assessments like one called Mind Community that actually incorporates multiple assessments into one. So that one includes the Big Five, the attachment style, the Myers-Briggs, and the Enneagram all in one. Check them out. You don't have to take them all. Maybe take one or two, and then use that information to help you then find jobs that would match with the results of the assessments. And so with anything, also, I want to mention that none of these assessments are perfect. They do have limitations. You can take them with a grain of salt. So take what works, what feels relevant, and ignore the rest. And then once you know what is relevant, you can pull some of that information. Of course, redact any personal identifying information, but pull some of the relevant info, add it to something like ChatGPT or Claude AI, and ask it to provide you with a list of jobs that would work well for someone who had these assessment results, and that can give you some options. And this actually ties into my next strategy. The next strategy is on leveraging AI for career exploration. Not only can you give it information around your assessment results, you can also upload things like your resume or like a list of skills or your interests. You can let it know what you have credentials in, what types of jobs you do want, what types of jobs you definitely don't want. Let me give you an example. I recently did this where I uploaded some information about my assessment results, and I also shared some information about my degrees and credentials and skills. And the first thing that it gave me in terms of list of careers was a list of a lot of different arts and theater related jobs, which makes sense because I happen to have a PhD in theater. And so after that, I prompted AI with a follow up of letting it know that I did not want any jobs that were specifically within the arts and theater industries, but that still could pull from the skills that I learned in that field. And so from there, it actually narrowed down my list of options. And what was really funny is that the options that it shared, I'm already doing a lot of what it mentioned. So I mentioned training, workshop delivery, public speaking, coaching, consulting. And there were several other things that gave me insights on even other avenues that I could pursue, again, for my career as I continue to develop my skills, my company, and just in general as I continue to pursue other career options. You can do this for yourself. And of course, with AI, you want to be careful. You want to make sure that you stay up to date with learning about AI literacy, that you take it with a grain of salt, that you keep an eye out for any biases. And nevertheless, you can actually gain a lot from these tools. So check it out, have fun with it, use it for brainstorming, use it for ideation, use it to give you some ideas of what the possibilities are. Now, in terms of actually narrowing down your list, let's say you end up having a pretty long list of career options, and realistically, you can only apply to so much. If you want to narrow it down, I recommend networking. I recommend conducting informational interviews. I recommend attending events, especially events for networking. This is important because you want to talk to people in this new industry. You want to learn the language of this new industry. You want to learn what a day in the life is there. You want to get referrals if possible. You want to nurture relationships. Some of these opportunities don't come up right away. They might come up months later after you've met someone. And they'll give you insights that you can't necessarily get from searching in an organization on your own or searching job descriptions on your own. So definitely talk to people, definitely conduct informational interviews, show up to networking events. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been co-facilitating structured networking events through Embrace Change NYC. I was invited to co-facilitate. And in these events, the last one that I ran was the one that had 107 people in the audience. And we got to put them all, they were primarily women of color, in breakout rooms, give them some questions, some prompts for them to engage in discussion together. And it was so much fun just to meet all these new people, have them be in breakout rooms, have them then connect with each other on LinkedIn after. And that meant for me that I also got several LinkedIn requests, connection requests afterward, because some of these folks resonated with me. So attend networking events that work for you, whether it's based on identity markers, based on industries, whether it's virtual or local. I mean, for me, I try to prioritize more virtual type of events because that's more accessible to me based on some of my limitations that have to do with my long haul symptoms, that have to do with me having to continue to be COVID cautious. But if you are craving that in-person experience, take a look at what's available locally to you in terms of networking events. You could tap into alumni centers and see if they have any local chapters near you where you can attend in-person events as well. Now, the last strategy I'm going to share today is about doing your homework around this new industry. If you've narrowed it down to maybe one or two industries that you think are going to be a good fit for you, start to figure out what are some common missions, what are some common visions, what are the cultures of these organizations, what is a day in the life here, what is the jargon that's used, and you want to keep learning. So instead of just thinking, I only need to learn enough to get through a job interview, you want this to be ongoing learning, even beyond the point of you landing an interview. You want to read blogs, you want to listen to podcasts, you want to watch YouTube videos, you want to read books, you want to check out discussion boards and forums and find out, what are people saying? What are people doing? How do they say what they say? What is important to them? Does this fit with what I want to do, how I want to spend my time outside of academia? So definitely don't forget to continue to do that industry research, to do your homework, to familiarize yourself, to be able to translate your skills and experiences from academia outside of it. Because that's one of the biggest hurdles that I see that comes up for graduate students, aside from not believing in themselves, because your confidence gets shaken so much by all the negative criticism you receive in academia. So aside from not believing in yourself, another thing that comes up a lot is that you just haven't been taught how to explain what you've done in graduate school in a different way, in a way that is relevant to this new industry. And so sometimes these folks who are on the other end hiring people, they can find it sort of risky to hire someone straight out of graduate school instead of someone straight out of college, because they might be intimidated by you and your credentials, or they might feel like you're too set in your ways and you're going to be too academic for them, or they might feel that it'll take you too long. You're not going to be a quick learner. And so you want to be able to counter that by saying, you know what, actually, you want someone like me. If anything, I'm a quicker learner than anybody else because I had to learn how to navigate this and this and this and this in my graduate program. And again, use it in their language in a way that they understand and the way that resonates with them. The only way to do that is to continue to do your company and industry research. Consider that your side project. And actually, in some fields, it is important to have projects and to work on a portfolio. And if that's necessary for you, I highly recommend taking on volunteer projects, or I would say like lower paid projects. So pitching yourself to others who you could work on a project for. Let's say you are interested in UX and you need to have someone who has a website get some input from you from that UX perspective so that they can be part of your portfolio. You can offer and say, hey, if you're in need of this type of support, I can offer it to you at a discount, or I'm willing to offer it to you and volunteer my time as long as you let me use it in my portfolio. Of course, I'm not a huge fan of doing low paid and unpaid work, but for this temporary period where you're trying to build up your portfolio, I think it can be helpful to do it this way. So anyway, I wanted you to have all this information because this is exactly what I go through with my clients in my one-on-one sessions. It all depends on what they want to prioritize. So whether they want to explore their core values, they want to explore some career options, they want to work through and identify their non-negotiables, or they want to together start to analyze or interpret the results of an assessment together, or if they want to hand in hand kind of explore some AI tools together. These are the things that we do. And I also want to encourage you in terms of next steps. If you want a copy of my core values workbook, please know it's available in my show notes. If you want to check out my blog on a list of core values, it's also in my show notes. And then lastly, I actually have a brand new coaching offering. It's hybrid coaching. And if you are interested, I do have some spots available. These are small cohorts of hybrid coaching. So that includes one-on-one and group coaching sessions. If you want to learn more, you can check out my coaching page. I'll link it in the show notes as well. It's one of the different coaching packages that I offer. I currently don't have any openings for one-on-one coaching, but I do have openings for hybrid coaching. So please reach out if you want to do this kind of work with me, both one-on-one and also in a group capacity with other fellow graduate students and professionals of color. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you all next time. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, here are 3 ways you can support the show. The first is to make sure you're subscribed and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The second way is to get your copy of my free resource kit linked in my show notes. This kit includes tools, worksheets, and podcast playlists on all things grad school, productivity, and personal development. The third way to support my show is to follow me on social media. You can find me on Instagram with the handle @Grad School Femtoring and on LinkedIn by searching my name. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.